Standing at life's crossroads, you see two paths. One demands sacrifices for greatness, and the other path offers comfort or faces you with struggles. You see, this choice isn't just about what we seek, but also what we're willing to leave behind at a chance for something extraordinary. So think of sacrifices as pruning a tree. You trim some branches to let it grow stronger, but cut too much or the wrong part of the tree and the tree suffers. Life's just like that. We make choices about what to give up or something greater down the line, aiming to keep our lives balanced and healthy. Because I'm sure if we didn't have to give up anything, then there wouldn't be a sacrifice. So we have to give up something sometimes in order to become extraordinary, in order to become great, we got to give up something. The other day, I was listening to the LeBron James podcast with JJ Redick, Mind the Game, and I heard LeBron James say something that kind of took me by surprise a little bit. And he was talking about being great and what you have to do to be great.
And do it with no care. Also, I think discipline at people, you know what, people use that word so loosely.
What does it mean to you?
You have to have the ability, when it comes to discipline, it's like you have to sacrifice loved ones.
And he says, you need to sacrifice your family. He said it in such a way that kind of alarmed me. And it kind of took me back a little bit the way he said it. And it didn't sound appealing. It didn't sound like a life that I would really want, especially when you talk about sacrificing your family in order to be great. And I don't know. I don't know if you really actually have to sacrifice your family in order to be great. But maybe when you come from a background where you have nothing and this is your path, it's kind of laid out for you, you can do this and you could become great. Maybe you go down that path. I was listening to another podcast, or maybe it was a clip from a podcast, It Is What It Is podcast with Cameron and Mace. And the question was to Mace was like, you know, did he regret leaving Bad Boy when he did, especially with everything that's going on in the news right now? And his response to that was just more like, look at where I'm at and look at everything that's transpiring. It's not that he was pointing the finger at P. Diddy or whatnot. It's not that he was saying that he was better than anyone. He was saying that he felt like people were dying around him. People were unhappy. People were doing things that probably were out of their nature, out of their character, in order to live this image, this perceived image, and live up to that perceived image. And he had to walk away from it. And he's looking at that now and he's saying, you know, I made a good choice. He's happy with the choices he's made. And he says something which I think is valuable is that, you know, you don't know you're making the best choice for yourself until you kind of look back at it, you know, till you've lived past that. But usually, you know, you're making a good choice. The feelings inside, you know, it's not for you. And then I think about people like Kobe Bryant, right? And this is contrasting the LeBron James conversation that he had. And I remember when Kobe said, you know, I wake up at 4:00 in the morning so I can go get my workout in.
Go through a schedule of my day. I get up at 6 in the morning and I do a training for about an hour or so. From 6 to about 7:15, and take my kids to school, and then go straight to the practice facility and lift weights for about an hour, and then go out on the court, do a little extra shooting for an hour, and then practice starts, and then after practice, do some more shooting, and go back home. And on this particular day, I'd run the track and then come back home and do another recovery therapy session.
Because, you know, he worked out like 2-3 times a day or 3-4 times a day or something like that. But he got up at 4:00 in the morning just so he could get back home or early enough to take his daughters to school. And that's admirable. So him waking up before dawn to train so he could be there for his family, it shows there are different ways to achieve greatness without missing out on life's precious moments. And I think sometimes being great requires you to look at those different options, those different paths. And I think that, you know, you have to pay a little bit closer attention to those things. Now, Kobe Bryant's life ended tragically early, leaving me to question the value of his sacrifices. Unlike Kobe, LeBron's story isn't over. LeBron still has time to balance his life choices. He still has time to make up for the lost time for some of the sacrifices that he's made at the cost of his family, right? But this contrast makes us ponder our sacrifices, especially with Kobe passing away and the time that we have. We look at basketball players and athletes and expect them to sacrifice everything for our benefit. We expect them to play hurt. We judge them on what they do on the court. We judge them on what they do off the court. We walk around expecting everything that comes along with being great. We expect everyone to think that way. We expect everyone to operate that way. And I find that mentality trickles down into our lives. Hey, I'm not getting paid $400 million a year or $400 million on a contract. I'm not making $30 million, $40 million a year. I'm not doing that. But sometimes where we're at, we're expected to take positions and jobs that are asking us to make those same sacrifices, to sacrifice our families. And it's real easy to say that, hey, for $400 million, for $300 million, for $30 million, I'll sacrifice that. But really, is money really the pivotal thing that will cause you to sacrifice your family? Personally, I don't think so. So I turned to my aunt for a different take on sacrifice. And my question to her was this: what does the Bible say about sacrifice? And she came back with a couple passages, but I'll simplify it for right now. She spoke about finding balance and not just focusing on what we give up. It's about achieving our goals without losing touch with ourselves or those we cherish. And one of the things she said, it wasn't about sacrifice, but more so, it was about obedience and obedience to God. And I started thinking about that, and I was like, well, how do you know what to sacrifice, when to sacrifice it? And she was like, well, you'll know, you should know what you're doing. If it feels wrong, go with that intuition, go with that feeling. And, so I take that and I listen to that. And I think that there's a lot of value in what she said. So this video is about finding balance. Finding balance while chasing greatness is a challenge. It's essential to have the right people by your side, understanding that some sacrifices are necessary, but we shouldn't cut off what truly matters, our connections with our friends and our families. Of course, everybody has a different value system. Everybody has a list of priorities that matter to them. So in general, we shouldn't cut off friends and family, unless you got really crappy friends or really crappy family. But balance means different things to different people. Today, many are reevaluating their priorities, sometimes choosing personal growth over starting a family. A lot of people are waiting to start families. It's about understanding the sacrifices needed to your dreams and deciding what level of greatness you're comfortable with achieving. Because again, we have to ask ourselves, is the cost of greatness too much? Especially when you're losing your family, you're losing time with your kids, time that you can never get back, time that will never be able to be made up. Now, I think that as people, we have our passions in life and we have our own destinies to fulfill. But these are questions I'm asking. So as you aim for greatness, think about its true cost. What are you willing to sacrifice and what's too precious to give up? Learning from those who've walked this path can guide you, helping you strike a balance that enriches both your journey towards greatness and your personal life. Hey everybody, I'm Osias, and this is our space to dive deep into the worlds of business and real estate, tackle life's challenges head on, and draw inspiration from those navigating their journey to become the best versions of themselves for their own growth and for their family's growth. So here it is. I'm eager to hear from you. What does being great mean to your life? I want you guys to tell me, how do you define greatness? And what does finding balance look like for you? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Let's spark a conversation and grow together in this community. I'm curious to explore how we can all push towards greatness, supported by insights and experience from each other. Again, I'm Osias, and this is the Get Busy Podcast. Thank you guys for tuning in, and peace.